Greetings, friends. Greetings. We are live. We are live. It's good to see you. As everyone's coming in, please say hello in the chat. As always, I'd love to know that you are here. Make your presence known. Make your presence felt. Let me know that you're here. And also, let me know if it's your first time here. I would love to see in the chat, is it your first time here? What a day that would be if it's your first time. Let me know if you're here as you're coming in the chat. Say hello. I would love to see you. Chat, say hello. Let's see who's here, who's here, who's here. So many people. Stella, good to see you. Princess Apia. Joshua Yang, good to see you again. Akshaya, Madison, Ezra, Jordan, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello from Louisiana. That's dope. Justine, good to see you. Satina, please, if it's your first time here, like Satina just did, let me know. If it's your first time here, I would love to give some shout outs to some first timers. Tony, Devin, nice to see you again. Hope you're well. Kareem, Abby Kittle, Kate Delane, nice to see you. So good to see everybody. Joshua Yang says, definitely not my first time here. We know, and we're happy about it. So good, so good. Sending love from Tallahassee. That's awesome, Melissa. I think that's really cool. Madison Dennis, third time. Hey, third time's a charm. Hopefully today is a good show for you. Oh, so good. Hi from London. Thanks, Nana. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Let's see. Noel Wee, first time. That's awesome. Welcome. So glad you're here for the first time. Mogadi Peace says, second time. Akshaya, it's your first time? So great. Indonesia, that's so cool. Shouts to Indonesia. Nai, shouts to Nai, first time here, first time here. That is awesome, that is awesome. Give me 2 seconds. I am going to tweet out that I'm live. Live stream now. Awesome. All right, friends, let's get the show started. Shouts to all of you who are here. Thank you for joining me. Happy Labor Day to those of you who are in the U.S. Henry, shouts to you. It's your first time here. That's so cool. Happy Labor Day to those of you who are in the U.S. To those of you who are not in the U.S., who are perhaps not celebrating Labor Day today. Labor Day is a day in the U.S. where pretty much everyone gets off work and off school. It's just a holiday, I think, mostly because we Americans are so bad at resting and taking a Sabbath that our country literally forces it on us. And our country is so privileged that there is a day where everyone says, oh, don't go into work today. There are so many countries around the world, I realize this, where employment is so scarce, and employment is something that people would literally give anything for. And here in the US, we are so privileged to be at a place where certainly there's a lot of people who would give anything to have a job here in the US, but there's also a lot of people who would give anything to have a day off of work, and that is what today is for a lot of people. However, for me, I still sort of work a little bit today, at least. I sort of work when I want most of the time, which is a really good thing, and I'm really happy about it. But welcome, we are live. So what this is an AMA, AKA Ask Me Anything. So I am here to answer your questions, hopefully encourage you for the next 10, 20 minutes or so before Sweet Bear and I have to leave. Encourage you, give you some wisdom if I can, answer any questions that you might have, both personal, fun, goofy questions, and if you have some more serious questions, spiritual questions, things like that, I will try and lend whatever wisdom I possibly can. I also want to let you all know, begin throwing questions in the chat, by the way. Begin throwing some questions in the chat. If you have questions, please let me know. All right. I also want to let you know that today we are brought to you by the Super Chat. The Super Chat, for those of you who don't know, it is something that Susie, our good friend, has already done. What the Super Chat is it is a great way for you to help support this channel and support this ministry that I'm doing. So a Super Chat, what it does is you give $1 or $2 or $10 or $20, and it highlights your comment or question in the chat. We have a lot of people here today. We have over 100 people here today. That's pretty high numbers for one of these. So the chat's going to be moving a lot. There's probably going to be a lot of questions. So giving in the Super Chat, it will actually highlight your question, guarantees that I will answer your question, But more than that, every dollar that is given in this super chat, it goes straight towards making this channel, making this ministry, making my videos and these live streams better. It means I can do more live streams. It means I can make better videos that hopefully will continue to encourage you all and hopefully will continue to spread the gospel all around the world. So if you are able today, and if it's available in whatever country you're in, please consider being like Susie, who is a faithful giver in the super chat, and give today $1, $2. Literally, you don't know how much of a difference it makes. Thank you in advance. And if you're not able to, no pressure, no worries. I do want to give a big shout out to Susie, as I already did, for giving in the super chat. Susie, you are so faithful. You are incredible. Thank you so much. All right, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Here we go. Let's answer some questions, y'all. So let's see. Sorry, I'm looking for. We have a couple super chats already. One coming in from our good friend Joshua Yang. Another from Paul Benish. Shouts to both of you. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you so much for believing in this ministry. I want to answer Joshua's question. Can you give advice on lust? He says, love this ministry. Thank you, Joshua. That means a lot. So for those of you who don't know too much about my story, lust has been, for me, to be totally honest with you all, lust has been one of my biggest struggles in my life in terms of, you know, the Bible. A lot of people interpret some writings of Paul where he talks about the thorn in the flesh as we all have sort of like a cardinal or chief sin that we, for whatever reason, are sort of tempted with or drawn to the most. And for me, it has definitely been lust for as long as I can remember. And so I've learned a lot of things about sort of dealing with that temptation. And one thing is when the temptation of lust begins to set in, you need to learn to recognize when it shows up. Lust doesn't necessarily come in like a tidal wave. I think I've used the analogy before. It comes in like a slow drip. And so you need to have the wisdom to recognize when Satan is trying to take root in your life because of something you saw, because of something you heard, whatever it is. You need to learn to recognize when that drip begins, and then you need to have the discipline to cut that off. Do whatever you need to do. Stop watching the movie that you're watching. Go out and take a walk. Remove yourself from a situation. You need to be disciplined enough to do whatever you need to do to stop that drip of temptation, because soon that drip is going to turn into a flow of temptation, and then it's going to be a waterfall. And once it's a waterfall, you're done for. And so I think it's the wisdom to recognize when temptation is setting in, mixed with the discipline of fleeing that temptation as we are taught to in the Bible. So there we go. All right. Paul Benish says, can you make a video in the future about Christians who are struggling going back to old ways if you haven't already? Absolutely, Paul. Absolutely. I'm trying to think if I have any videos that perhaps deal with the temptation to go back to what the Bible calls the old self or our old identity. Actually, I'll call on you all. If you all can think of any videos that you have seen on my channel that sort of talk about that in the midst of the struggle, not turning back, not retreating, but instead continue moving forward. If you can think of any videos on my channel that perhaps talk about that, please throw the titles of those in the chat. Let Paul and everyone else know so that they can go and watch them. Curly Beast, $2 in the super chat. Thank you, Curly. That means so much. So glad that you're here. I don't think I've seen your name here before, so I'm so glad you're here. I think that's awesome. Joshua Yang says 1,000,000 pieces. That might be a good one to check out. Paul, that might be a good one to check out. 1,000,000 pieces. Yeah. All right. Nana Baki. I'm sorry if I don't know how to say it, but thank you for giving the super chat. I so appreciate it. I want to answer this question: how to deal with anxiety as a Christian. So this is a theme that comes up a lot sort of on this show. And first, I want to say, please go and watch the video that I just put out a few weeks ago on worry and anxiety. I also have a old 7-minute sermon, one of the first 7-minute sermons, called How to Deal with Worry. I would check out both of those videos because I really think that they could encourage you. Beyond that, though, in terms of dealing with anxiety, my biggest advice for people, one, is to differentiate for yourself whether you have medical clinical anxiety, which means you have received a doctor's diagnosis. Not that you diagnosed yourself with it, but that you got a doctor's diagnosis. Or you are feeling anxious, and there are times in your life because of situation or because of relationship or because of stress, you are feeling anxious. And if you're feeling anxious, then one of the things that we need to do, obviously, is we need to pray. We need to give those worries, we need to give those anxieties over to God. And one of the ways that we do that is through prayer. But another thing that we can do in terms of limiting our anxiety is we can begin to make wiser decisions. The anxiety that you feel today is probably a cause of a decision that you made yesterday or a lack of decision that you made yesterday. It's because you put something off, or it's because you decided to take this job because it's a blessing, and what was once a blessing is now causing you stress. So you either need to make wiser decisions, or the other side of it is to take a new sort of faith perspective on whatever situation or whatever thing is causing you that anxiety. Instead of looking at it that, let's say you have a broken relationship in your life that's causing you a lot of stress and anxiety, instead of looking at that broken relationship as something that is stress-inducing, start looking at that broken relationship as an opportunity for God to do an incredibly amazing redemptive work within it, and begin to pray for and hope for that restoration. And that begins to mitigate or minimize that anxiety that you feel. We got a couple more super chats coming in. Big shouts to Unspeakably Blessed, a new huge supporter of this channel. Thank you so much. I want to answer your question, but first I want to answer Annika, $3 in the super chat. Thank you, Annika. I so appreciate it. Annika says, tips on fear of sharing your faith with friends. Annika, that's a great question. So I think the first part of it is, don't feel this pressure that you have to, out of nowhere, just bring up your faith. One of the most awkward and strange things to do is you're all just sitting around with your friends, and then you say, hey, have you guys ever thought about Jesus? Like, I don't know. I feel that that's strange. But instead, don't look at it as though I have to go hang out with my friends today and talk about my faith. Instead, look at it as always being open to the Spirit moving when opportunities come up. So perhaps you're hanging out with your friends and you are just constantly praying in your head like, God, give me an opportunity. God, give me an opportunity. God, give me an opportunity. And when he does, when it may be church or faith, or someone asks you, hey, what are you doing on Sunday, or something like that, when that opportunity comes up, then you just need to have the boldness to know that is God answering your prayer. It's not something that happened by accident, but you have been praying for God to give you an opportunity. So it means that God set that opportunity up for you to talk about it, so you can enter into it without fear, knowing that you will not fail, knowing that he's going to accomplish his purposes in that moment. I think perhaps that might be helpful. I hope it does help you. Unspeakably Blessed, I want to answer your question. Happy Labor Day. Thank you so much. Happy Labor Day to you, my friend. What book in the Bible has affected you the most, and why? That's a really great question. I always lean towards the Gospel of John. I love the Gospel of John for obvious reasons, but not just because it has a great name, although spelled wrong. I love the Gospel of John because of how poetic and beautiful and just genius the writing is. Many of you know I myself am a writer. I write poetry. I love metaphor. I love the use of language. I'm attracted to that kind of work. And the Gospel of John is it's this beautiful mix of poetry and language use along with storytelling. I love the Psalms. However, the Psalms aren't always necessarily telling a specific story. But with John, you get all of the poetry, all of the beautiful language and metaphor and alliteration of the Psalms, along with the greatest story ever told, which is the life and death and resurrection of Jesus. And so I'm a big fan of the Gospel of John. If you haven't read it, check it out. Daniel, it's good to see you. Daniel Parrett. Daniel, hey, John, I'm going to be in Chicago in December for 3 weeks, where I'll be attending my new Bible college as I move into ministry. That's so cool. So thank you again for your ministry as it helps save me. So care to go for coffee? Yes, absolutely. If I'm available, Daniel, let me know. Send me an email, Daniel, with the dates that you're going to be here specifically, and we will figure out a time to get together. For those of you who don't know, Daniel is a huge supporter of this channel. Daniel has an incredible testimony, just like a really strong story of God's faithfulness in his life and his faithfulness to continue to seek after God despite unbelievable circumstances. He is a huge encourager of me, and I so appreciate him. All right, Curly Beast, thank you once again. $5 in the super chat. Any advice to being a new believer in college, family being non-believers? That's awesome, first of all. The fact that you are still so young and new to your faith, I think that's incredible. The biggest advice I would have for a new believer, especially within college, is to find some sort of community of, especially if you come from maybe a family of non-believers, is to find some sort of Christian community, whether, and hopefully that's through a church, but with it, not just finding a church that you can go to on Sunday and you can sit there and you can listen to a message and then you can leave. But I mean finding a community within that church, or finding a community on your campus, meeting with a small group of people who are at the same point in their spiritual journey as you, but also people who are farther along on that journey, people who have been Christians for a long time, who perhaps have lived this life that you are now trying to live. One of the biggest mistakes I think new believers make, and also believers like me, I've been a Christian for half my life and I still make the mistake. One of the biggest mistakes that Christians make is we try and do the Christian life alone. And that is not only unwise, I actually think it's unbiblical. What you don't really see in Scripture is you don't see instructions and commands for being a loner. You just don't. You see God, who is this, what we call a triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You see this God that in and of himself is a community, creating us in his image, also for community then. We're created for community. And so one of my biggest advice to new believers is always find a community, find a community, find a community, and stick with them. Good luck to you. Hope, $5 in the super chat. Thank you, Hope. I so appreciate it. Any thoughts on early church fathers' writings and Catholicism, or truth in Catholicism in general? I've been struggling with discernment over this. Thank you. Yes, of course. So for me, I am personally not Catholic, nor did I grow up Catholic or anything like that. Sweet Bear did, though. Sweet Bear grew up Catholic. Any thoughts on that? Sweet Bear? Sweet Bear, she like just got out of the shower, otherwise she would help me. She's crossing herself right now. Any thoughts?
On what?
On Catholicism.
Thank you. What do you mean, in general?
I think still, yeah. I think it's more like the truth in Catholicism. A lot of people have issues with the theology of the Catholic Church, or perhaps just the way the Catholic Church is run and things like that.
So, first of all, what's happening in the Catholic Church currently is despicable.
You're referring to the cases of molestation.
Yes. So we know that is despicable. We know that's awful, terrible. Not speaking to that.
Yes.
I think people get really hung up on, well, we worship God this way, and we worship God this way. And actually, we were just reading in Ephesians. Mm-hmm. Is it Ephesians or Colossians?
I don't know what you're going to say.
About how Paul wrote a letter to these people because something that they were struggling with was adding too much to their faith. Colossians. And
they were adding man-made traditions to the gospel.
Yeah, which I'm not saying that the Catholic traditions are wrong. I'm saying what's wrong is that we're adding so much to our faith. Well, I worship God this way. Well, you worship God that way, so that's not worshiping God. Mm-hmm. Like, do you worship God? Do you love Jesus? Do you know him? Do you try to follow his commands? Do you try to live your life with him? If so, like how you do it, if Catholic Mass makes you feel close to God, if going through those traditions helps you to feel like you're living your life with him, more so than going to like a more contemporary service that we go to, more power to you. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to worship. Well, there definitely is a wrong way, but I think people get too hung up on that.
On the specifics, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now, I do think as Catholics, you do have to be careful to not just let it become religion, because there are so many traditions and rules and things like that. Mm-hmm. just from knowing a lot of Catholics, but I don't know. I think people get so.
Yeah, we are definitely not of the belief that of some people that like Catholic is not Christian.
No.
I think that there are wonderful God-fearing Christians who are Catholic, and that's just the way it is. So.
Peace.
Anyway. All right, let's see. We got a couple more questions. Nick Adams, unspeakably blessed, both of you. Thank you so much for giving in the super chat. Let's see what we got. No, they look great. Those new jeans.
Well, they're just my comfy jeans.
Oh, they're nice. I like them. Nick Adams asks, what is some good advice for a good first year of marriage? I just got married 3 months ago. Congratulations. That's really cool. And things are going well. Miss you, brother. Well, if things are going really well, then maybe you shouldn't listen to any advice at all, because I might give you some advice and that just might really, really, really screw things up, you know? But I guess if I were to give maybe any advice for the first year of marriage, humility. Just be humble. You are starting something that is brand new that you've never done before. Neither of you have ever done it before. You're not going to be fantastic. One of the harder things to do, as proven by the divorce rate, especially in America, marriage is not an easy thing to do. So if you enter into it from a place of humility, saying, I have a lot to learn, as clearly you already have by even asking this question, but having a lot to learn, not just from other people, but also things to learn from your spouse. If you enter into a marriage from a place of humility and just use the whole first year and say, I'm not going to be concerned with being the perfect husband. I'm going to be concerned with learning as much about my wife as possible. I'm going to be concerned with learning as much about being a husband, forming a marriage as possible. I think that's a really great place to be at. That was something I tried to do. I didn't do it super well a lot of the time, but it's something I continue to try and do today, to be as perhaps humble as possible. Oh, hi, Bucks. Buckets is here. You want to say hi? Okay, never mind. Unspeakably blessed, $5 in the super chat. Hey, John, this is for Arizona Johnson. She asked a question right after mine. Thank you again for your ministry. That's awesome. Let's see if I can find that question. Arizona Johnson says, Happy Labor Day. I'm 22 and dating intentionally, and we both have high physical touch love languages. How can we intentionally move a bit slower and guard our hearts? So one of the best, most practical pieces of advice I ever heard in terms of physical boundaries within a dating relationship was it is the metaphor sort of guardrails. Meaning that if you're driving sort of up along a mountain, right? And you have like sort of the guardrails that go along it. The guardrail, it's not, maybe a mountain is a bad example. So if you're driving along the highway, there's a guardrail, then there's about 10 feet of space, and then you would tumble off the hill. The guardrail usually, if they can help it, it's not set right against the side. The guardrail is actually set well within the safe zone so that if you break through the guardrail, you're still safe. You haven't fallen off the edge of the cliff yet. That's, I think, a great way to think about a physical relationship while you're dating, as you're continuing to try and guard each other's hearts for marriage, if you're trying to save certain things for marriage. Now, moving that metaphor into perhaps a dating relationship, let's say, you don't want to, let's say you don't want to make out. That's like your line that you don't want to do in your dating relationship. You don't want to make out. You don't want to do anything more than kiss. You probably shouldn't set the guardrail right at making out, because once you've done it, boom, you've gone over the deep end. If your goal is to not have sex before marriage, you shouldn't set your guardrail at we're not going to have sex, because then you're going to do everything up to that, and then once you've broken through the guardrail, you've fallen off the edge. Rather, take several steps back and set the guardrail well within the safe zone so that even if you blow through that guardrail, you're still safe. You're still okay. But you also feel sort of the conviction for breaking a promise to one another. That's an incredibly practical piece of advice that I believe I heard from Andy Stanley a bunch of years ago. So that is it. That is it. That's all I have to say. Today, Sweet Bear and I were going to go out to her parents' house and hopefully have a great time there. Have a good Labor Day. I hope you all have a good Labor Day. I love you all. I will see you hopefully tomorrow for another live stream. This has been fun. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you then. Keep being awesome.